Good morning. Welcome to January 21st and another exciting episode of Who Am I? That audacious new platform that has the audacity. I just used the same word. Sorry. The audacity to ask the important, interesting questions that we might have as humanity, as an individual within the body of humanity, because certainly we are divinely autonomous. We'll talk about what that might mean. It's actually my own term, so it means whatever I think it means. We are divine individuations of the allness of which we are taking part. So in that sense, we have our free agency. There's a lot of religions that kind of emphasize, the importance of that or the significance of that. We do have a kind of free agency. We have the ability somehow to walk against the impulses of all of the rest of the field around us. We have the ability to take thoughts that either are with or not with the inner being that quickens within us. Most of the other beings don't do that. They feel that quickening and they move in the direction of the impulse that it is. And what is that impulse? That impulse is desire. That's what it is. That's where the wick of your inner being actually abides. So, anyway, the question of the day, as always, who am I? Who am I as a biotechnology? Who am I as I'm so many things. Who am I? There's not one answer, and it's different from every position on the grid, and it winkles in and out of all kinds of different frequencies. You're the angry one sometimes. You're the anxious one. I'm not the angry one very often. I have got to the point where things do not make me angry too much. I can distance myself from it usually to enough of a degree that things don't make me angry. But I can see that life is going to get to even me. So I think that's another reason why I probably come into this space and do this program. Who am I? Who am I? I want to know as much as anybody else. Life is going to be coming at us. And here in the United States, it's kind of interesting. I don't fully know whether or not this storm of chaos is going to actually succeed. But it's being fueled by our own behavior. It is a reflection of our own out of alignmentness in general. As a people, as a functionary systems creator and manager, we are out of alignment. And in our disalignment, as I have pointed out in previous episodes, I believe there's a general rule going on. Because we are a single morphogenetic field upon this planet, that whatever some parts of us do, it affects the rest of us. For a number of reasons. We have mirror neurons in our brains, for one thing. These are neurons that when we see things happening to other people, it fires in our own brains just as though it was happening to us. We have these neurons in our brains. It's one of the reasons why we can't get out of each other's business, It's because it's why when you see somebody else hitting the crotch, you double up, So there's that. Our consciousness kind of makes us a single morphogenetic field on this planet. And so it means when parts of us create systems that are out of alignment, out of harmonics, out of alignment with the win-win-win-win-win-win plan that is God's. This is God's plan. God's plan is win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. This system is so good everybody can have their own way, as long as their way does not... How do you enforce this? Because it's a general rule. And yeah, there will be times when you accidentally step on things you didn't mean to and they pass. But where's your intention? That's the important part of this equation. So what do we need to do about this? What do we need to do about this? Well, collectively, it's hard to impose a solution from the outside. So the only answer really is to understand this concept of alignment within yourself. Know that the world, the universe, is spinning disks of these spinning disks. They're also, you could think of them as frequencies. They're wavelengths. They're I don't even know how to put all of this together. It starts with Plancks. And everything in the universe is made of Plancks. And what are Plancks? Plancks are the pixels of the universe. They are these just little teeny tiny, the tiniest length that you can get is a Planck. How do you achieve that Planck? I believe that it's something on the order of, you take a photon, which is really small, going at the speed of light, which is really fast, crossing its own diameter, which is really a really short distance, and then do the math somehow. That's a Planck. I believe it's something like that. It's just really, 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 really small. So small that if you want to understand the size of a Planck, think about how many Plancks there might be in the center of a proton. And a proton, by the way, is a black hole. And I've showed the slides. I believe some of you might have seen the video and looked at the paper even and thought about whether or not it's bullshit woo-woo nonsense or whether somebody really has done the math that reconciles the quantum world from the cosmological world. And it actually works in scales. And scales of data transfer and information flow across the big and the small. And it's black holes all the way up and all the way down, shedding and sharing information and reverberating across, the spaces through this Planck field. And you're actually made of Plancks. Everything is made of Plancks. There's nothing but Plancks. As a matter of fact, you could think of the world of apparition, the rolling flux of manifestation, as being kind of this Planck field dancing. And what's the force, the initial force, the central force at the center of the motion? It's spin. And it's like, you could think of it as an infinitude of spins that have sprung from a single spin. When you get, at least in this density space, when you get all the way down to our Planck, you have integrated with our known universe. Now, there is likely a multiverse, and so if you could, integrate all the way down to the sub-Planck and the sub-Planck and whatever, the point is at the center of it all is a point that we all share. Without going anywhere, without moving yourself locally, all points in this universe, in this multiverse that we live in, share this point. And so that's what you're doing when you are meditating. You're finding the center of the center of the center of your center, and as you fall into your centers, you're clicking into the morphogenetic fields of the greater universe of data flow around you. The universe is holographic. It's holographic, it's holographic, and it matters. It really, really matters. Somehow I believe it really matters. I think it's the key. And I think that knowing that it is holographic helps one to understand how it is that your inner being knows who you are. Knows who you are, knows where you are, knows where everything is, knows how it's moving, knows what spinning disk every item is on, and how would be your best rendezvous with all the things that you personally care about. You know what it turns out to be? It turns out to be the frequency of love, kindness, acceptance, satisfaction, and higher contentment, eagerness, interest, fascination, good humor. It's a good-humored place. It's not in the sour zones. The sour zones mean something, though. It means that we're out of alignment somewhere. And as long as some of us are out of alignment, the whole field has the potential for some misalignment. That's how come why your neighbor's business is your business, but only to one extent. We're feeling for vibrations, you know. I will allow the field around me to, do whatever it wants to do completely unmolested by me, as long as it's not all jangly and in my business. I don't know. The conversation has deteriorated for a second. Let me just go back to, I allowed myself a little bit of leeway there, since I know we do finally have some recurring listeners. And so, I didn't really want to go on with the conversation, get too esoteric. My general intention as I come into this space every morning, it is my intention, it is my avowed intention only to, as an instrument to help rise the consciousness of the field around me, because I believe that as we better understand who we are and how we work and how it operates in this quantum field that we abide in, that we will all be in better alignment and making better choices. And that world, let's build a better world, that advertisement, yeah, let's do that. Let's build a better world. Let's figure out what is the win-win point. Anyone out there playing a zero-sum game has got the field wrong, and unfortunately our power to morph the field based on what we believe to be true, even if it's nonsense, if we're not crossing our own energy field, we've got a lot of influence and power to influence others to our little chaotic storm of bullshit nonsense, which I think is what's happening on one side of the political spectrum right now. And since we collectively don't really understand the phenomenon that we are watching unfold in the field, we do, whatever it is that we do. I would say that I'm going to air quote my side of the political spectrum, because I actually don't have a lot of my side of the political spectrum. I really don't have a lot of faith in the political system in general, because I realize how contrary to the spirit of harmonics is the way we've set up our government. Although there's a lot of really good points about it, and what we ought to do is with don't get too bogged down in the problems that we actually have. Think about all the good things that we've got going on. And even with our military, our ability to do things, our Army Corps of Engineers and there's all kinds of things that the way that we can organize at a moment's notice. Boots on the ground, stuff happening. That's actually really good, except for it's really important, the kinds of missions that we're even trying to accomplish with those boots on the ground. The spirit of things is way more important than we have been, It really is important. We're not going to straighten out the world until and I know that all the religious people kind of know that, but they have their ideas, their spirit, their recognition of the frequency of sacredness or whatever is sort of all compartmentalized in that their little churches with their weird superstitious beliefs about cosmology, you know. But it is true. The universe is vibrational. We live in a vibrational universe, and we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. And no wonder our feelings would matter so much, because it is us reading the meaning of the world around us, but it's actually more an indictment on the thoughts that we have taken about the world around us, because our emotions are a result of it's a relative thing. There's two frequencies going on. There's two spins. There's two spinning points of attraction. There's two minds thinking two sets of thoughts. And one is your pure vibrational inner being mind looking at everything, reading the Allness channel, as I was saying, that information as information comes in across the Planck field of all your protons. There's that frequency, that one who's looking at what you want, knowing everything that is and looking at what you want. That's your source energy mind. And then there's you. There's you. And you can think whatever dark, twisted, angry, frightened, powerless, belligerent. You are free to take any thought that you want. And the thought that you take, the reason that it feels the way it feels, either positive or negative, is because it's a relative. Your emotions are the mix of those two things. What your source knows and what it is always looking at, that never changes, except for the rolling manifestation changes. But what your inner being looks at never changes. It's looking at what is, and it's looking at what you want. It's knowing what is, and it's looking at what you want. How about that? It's knowing what is, and it's looking at what you want, and it never does anything different than that. And it knows what you want because you've been declaring it your entire life. I want this, I want this, I want... And what do you want? Well, you want all the things you love. Everybody wants all the things they love. That's why they love them. And your inner being is always looking at that, and you are saddled... I guess I should get off of this picture. You are saddled with that positive point of view for your entire life. You're saddled with that. You cannot get away from it. So when you take small, mean little thoughts about your neighbor or about yourself, your inner being who is not thinking those thoughts or agreeing with that at all or on any kind of frequency like that, the dissonance between those two frequencies, as you are literally out of alignment, is what negative emotion is. That's what it is. That's all it is. And so don't take it too seriously, although it is indeed telling you something about what you prefer or not prefer about the world around you. And as you focus in, this is the task, people. This is how we find the meaning in our lives. Who are we? Who are we? How does our equipment work? There's other questions. How did we get here? There's more questions about that. Potential answers and then which just open up more questions and more fields and avenues of opportunity for people to run out and follow the answer to those questions. Who did genetically modify us, for instance? Now, that may sound like quackery, and, to be honest and fair, I understand if you are not at a place where that sounds like reasonable to you, and you still think that they've had meetings about this in Congress even. That's how they finally kind of had to admit that UFOs are at least... Actually, I don't know how any of that turned out. I have not been watching the news for the last 4 years because I have really, really wanted to pull back and get a better understanding of the bigger picture. Who we are. Who are we really? And what is going on and how does it work? I met the teachings of Abraham just as COVID shut the world down in 2020. And it gave me a piece of the puzzle that I hadn't had before. It has been my practice, as I have lived my life, to anybody, when I came across someone whose ideas I thought were really interesting, for some reason they fired my heart in some way, and I could see what they were saying, I would swallow what I thought they meant. What do you mean? And then I'd go to another one and do it again and do it again. I have a lot of teachers. My old YouTube playlist, I got so many playlists. You can see the progression, the evolution of my who I was interested in and how I was swallowing them. And then, of course, it started way before YouTube. My first one was Joseph Campbell with The Power of Myth back in the late 80s. And then I bought it on DVD as soon as it was on DVD. And we used to listen to it on an episode of that every Sunday and call it Sunday service. And sometimes my daughter and her boyfriend would... who was the one who introduced us to Conversations with God, and there's Gary Zukav and Dancing Woolly Masters, and then there was the people that, starting with that, the thinkers that started bringing in the idea of the quantum field having something to do with this. Paul Levy has some interesting ideas with he calls the psychosis, he calls authoritarian psychosis that kind of field phenomenon that is happening where his job, his work has been to fully elucidate that phenomenon. His website is, I think it's Awaken in the Dream. The authoritarian psychosis, he calls it Wetiko. It's a Native American term. It relates to the monster, the Wendigo or whatever. It's the soulless man. It's it was a kind of psychosis that they noticed that white men had a lot of. They noticed they knew the phenomenon from within their own people, but it was more of an occasional phenomenon within them, sort of like a pathology almost. But with us, it was like all of us seemed to have Wetiko, Right now, it's playing out in our political spectrum, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not which energy wins the day, order or chaos. The problem is that, in truth, to be in harmonic resonance and in a win-win paradigm with the biological field around us, which we really need to do, we need to be more in harmonic resonance with the biofield of the planet itself, just because that would stop the sixth mass extinction. And of course, all of that could be accomplished if we could get away from fossil fuels. That is, any one of our regular listeners will know that that's the general thesis of the program. Our better understanding of source energy, who I am, who am I, will bring us to both an individual better understanding of where we are putting our foot in it in our own lives, where we are stepping afoul of what our own inner desires really are, and how to tell. The way you can tell is when you start to feel bad, it means you've taken a thought that your inner being is not interested in. What happens when you follow this line of understanding is you find yourself not giving a lot of airtime to looking back and regretting. There's not really any point in going about it from that position. As you do that, you rob yourself of all power, because you have no power to go back into the past and change what you did and make it better. That's not how you're going to make it better. Your inner being never looks that way. You go back that direction and you're without your inner being. And when you think anywhere without, well, what it is like I said before, you're saddled forever with this positive point of view. And you might as well go with it. You might as well flow with it, because it's never going to give up its It will always look at what you want, even when you refuse to. Even when you are determined to look around yourself in your particular specific physical situation and stare relentlessly at all the aspects of life that are troubling. It's difficult at first. You have to intentionally set an intention to begin a positive momentum, because momentum is a thing, but every day is a new day. And as you start your day with an intention of finding a positive thread and following it to its best, you start building a spin on that specific side that begins to have a connection to the rest of your life. You start pulling yourself together, if you will. You don't find yourself doing things on the one hand that the other hand has to go clean up afterwards. You become a harmonic wholeness unto yourself. You don't disagree with yourself anymore. That's actually the biggest poison that any one of us ever encounter. It is the crossing of your own energy stream, which is the equivalent of being out of alignment. That's the only problem that humanity has. And I say that, the only problem that and the only other problem that we have is that we burn fossil fuels. But that's it. Other than that, everything is absolutely perfect, and the system works just fine. Here's another problem with the system, with trying to fix the world. I'm an air quote to fix the world fix, but I'm not going to show it. If you want to fix the world, the problem is the second that you turn to the world and address it as though it's broken, then you lose that enthusiastic light, that understanding that all is well. Fear not, for all is well. We all have an inner being, and all it wants us to do is let go of the struggle, let go of the oars, know that the pattern is trying to organize us. If you would just when a person starts, this is what happened to me. Actually, right before COVID, me and my daughter had started joining a local A Course in Miracles study group. And I think it was Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night we were meeting at the Rio Rancho Community Center and with a group of other people and talking about A Course in Miracles and what it meant. Chapter by chapter, thought by thought. It was a study group. We're going through the course. And we might have completed it if COVID hadn't changed everything about the way everybody did. And most of the people in that group some of them were fairly elderly, so I'm not sure, how they reorganized after the pandemic. But in any case, what was the point of that? The world is... you are creating your reality by the way you are looking at it. You are assigning all the meaning to it. Actually, I'm not. That's not where I was going with this. Can't remember. Sorry. Nothing wrong with the world. There's nothing wrong with the world, and it is working perfectly. We are just out of alignment. It's like if your car was out of alignment, but in all other ways, absolutely the coolest racing machine ever. But when it's out of alignment, it just doesn't run properly. It spews out noxious fumes. It spews and sputters. It doesn't respond to the whatever. That's a good analogy, actually. And you look at it and you go, oh my God, it's broken. It's broken. There's no hope. Let's throw it away. It's no hope. Actually, that's not a good analogy to what I was talking about, because in my analogy, looking at the world as broken kind of inhibits your ability to get into alignment, because your inner being always feels happy. So when you look at the world and you're not happy, you're not actually in alignment with what your greater self knows to be the greater truth of the field around you. We're dreaming this into place, and it's so plastic it can really be anything. To a point, there is an organization in the field, on the ground, in place already, and that is biological order. That is what creates abundance in the field. And the secret of that formula is win, 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 win. When we see the world as zero-sum game, and the object of the exercise is competition, we create the world that we have right now. Isn't that a perfect way to define the essence of what's wrong with Trump? You know, that he sees everything. He's like the essence of zero-sum game competition. I win, you lose, you sucker. And doesn't that feel like what's wrong with the spirit of that? I don't want to get into politics because honestly, there is no villain. It is all us. There is only us here. We're the only ones here. I used to think that when I was in my 20s and maybe late teens even, I was very fascinated with the phenomenon of Nazis and the Holocaust in general. Our father had fought in World War II, although he specifically fought against the Japanese, and so maybe that gave it distance for me too, you know. But I was able to think about the phenomenon of Nazis and the Holocaust and that cruelty, that what happened, that was just really crazy, dark and strange. And how could that have happened? But it seemed sufficiently distant because, you know, they were Germans for one thing. They weren't Americans. We fought against that. That wasn't us. That was somebody else. And that wasn't now. That was way back when. Well, it wasn't all that far back. It was it wasn't even 100 years ago. And my own father, who was still alive, just had his 98th birthday. Bless his heart. In any case, there is only one of us here, and these phenomenon are not separate from ourselves. And I believe that we need to understand how this works. And I believe that it is just a question of being in alignment with what our inner being knows to be true about the universe. And what is true about the universe? Well, I would like to see humanity forgive me, audience. I have allowed myself to get farther afield than normal because I am just heady with the notion that I have any regular viewers, and it's exciting me quite a bit. So I'm deviating from my normal program, which is where my thesis is that a general understanding of this source energy of which I claim to be speaking about will bring us to two distinct positive results as a human being. First of all, individually, as I understand this, I cease to take my negative emotions so seriously. I cease to take them so seriously in others. I start realizing who other people really are, in spite of what it might look like they are being. Because who you are and who you are being are two different things. And a clear understanding of both of these things, and trying not to hold the who you are against anybody. Because honestly, this is a delicate dance we are doing, people. And I do not want to fall into 1943, 44, 45 Germany. 41, 40, 23, 33. We went through this before. We need to understand this phenomenon. There's no reason to play the play out fully all the way to its nasty end in order to get the lesson that is trying to be shown to us. First of all, how serious this problem is about our misalignment on the one hand, and then how not serious it is in a way because and you have no you cannot from the outside force anybody else's alignment. That's another thing. So you look at it and you go, oh my God, the problem really is alignment. It's everybody's misalignment. But you can't go out there and force everybody into their alignment. Actually, as it turns out, you don't even want to do that. What you want to do is just find your own solid alignment. Know who you are. Know that primarily speaking, who you are. I think that it's who you really are because it's who you always are. That expirational self is just who you sometimes are. It's who you are right now in this time period. And then how you're acting relative to who you really are, that changes in every moment. And you're... I want to speak to us on these two levels because on two levels I want us to get it. On the level that when you find your own alignment with your own inner being and start moving from the impulses that are coming from your greatest heart without contradicting them with your doubtful mind, you find a way to find the things that you really want that are in alignment with the field around you. And I think that the answer is you got to think bigger than you're thinking. You think because you believe that you are small, that if you just carve this little piece out, and I don't have to think about the whole group, I'll just carve this little piece out over here because I don't matter, and this is all I can get. Truly, the answer is going to come in a win-win-win-win solution. And the only one who can organize a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win solution is the great organizer. And what is that? It's the spinning force that's organizing all of us. And if we would lean into love, it will organize us into order. And when we lean into anger, it sort of organizes us into chaotic storms, little flurries of small and big vortexes, I know it's vortices, of chaotic energy, this Shiva energy of which I speak. And when we as a group create systems that are not in alignment with the harmonics of the whole order, the spinning order, then we create these storms of Shiva energy that blow through and knock down our things that we've created that won't last because they aren't in alignment with the harmonics of the win-win playbook. And people go, yeah, but I want to turn my lights on. I want to be warm all the time. And I want to go from here to there. And the answer is we need to quit using fossil fuels. Which brings us to the second part of my thesis, which is that I believe that this understanding will bring us to a freedom from fossil fuels. First of all, you have to believe that it's possible. You have to believe that it's possible. We've kind of gotten stuck in this. Whenever anybody tries to say anything about, well, why don't we do? And actually, the energies that we call green, there's probably a good reason as well as a bad reason why they're being fought because it's actually not the answer either. The answer is some really green ideas, really green understandings. Devices that you can hold in your hand that might run a city. Devices that can run a starship that can go from one side of the galaxy and just keep on going, to the other side of the galaxy and keep on going. Understanding the wormholes so you don't have to go in a straight... The closest distance, I believe, that the closest distance between 2 points is not a straight line as we thought, but to go right to the point where both of them share the information. And from there, you can have all of the information of both points, and you're right there. You don't have to go anywhere, and you're right there. You just somehow translate the information differently from where you are. I don't know how that would work, But I do believe that a better understanding of the real structure of how the universe actually is, and not, superstitious, addled, misaligned nonsense that your mind might be. You got to set up your consciousness correctly. And it would be helpful if it was in alignment with actual reality around you. And as Nassim Haramein would say, and forgive me if you are one of the listeners that have heard this before, this is going to be one of my regular things, because I just love this sentiment. When you integrate yourself as a biological being, you connect with the morphogenetic field of the planet. When you integrate yourself at the atomic level, you connect with the solar system. At the level of the proton, you integrate with the galaxy. And when you get all the way down to the Planck, you integrate with the universe. And this has to do with the way the order and the way your analytical mind is lining up with what your inner being knows to be true about the rules of how the rolling manifestation rolls, if you will. The rules of momentum and frequency and vibration and coherence and chaos and order and your emotional guidance system as given to you by virtue of the body that you inhabit. But I think that I think that our design was kind of helped along. Let's see, how far I'm 41 minutes in. Where am I in the narrative? If you're a regular listener, you know the slides that I have at the moment. You might at one point be screaming at the what are you at your phone, screaming, show the such and such a slide. No, you're probably not at that point yet. Here's a slide you haven't seen if you're a regular listener, because that's not the one I wanted. This was supposed to be some kind of illustration of you and your inner being looking in two different directions. But it was hard for me to go with this one because these are so adorable. It was hard for me to show this as some kind of a negative thing. Chameleons are really quite delightful, as they can look in all kinds of different directions. I have one more. I love this one. And I never show this one. This because I'm not sure where I am in the narrative. I was getting ready to get excited about the fact that I do believe that this understanding of source energy is going to free us from fossil fuels. That the main reason why UFOs are being generally kept from general knowledge, and all of us just generally in a matter-of-fact way looking at the phenomenon and scratching our heads and thinking about it, is because I think somebody doesn't want us to really put two and two together and start demanding that we develop different technologies. There's no reason why we need to keep killing this planet. And actually, the paradigm of the biological field that we have been born into, the ruling paradigm is this runs on win-win. Win-win. There is a solution that fits all of us. Somebody does not have to lose for somebody else to win. And you have to just kind of open your eyes further, open your heart as to who we are as a group. So we are one. We are inseparably one with the field around us, and that's why it needs to be win-win. It's sort of like your kid. Are we as human beings, like if our kidneys decided that they were just going to go out on their own, they didn't need to pay attention to the body that supported them? Well, that's just silly. That's just silly. And the reason that a biological system, when left to its own devices over time, multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies and multiplies, and that's just the way it always is. If you look at any, like an island that started out as volcanic deadness, and then a few seeds and a couple of creatures, wash up, and the next thing you know, a few million years later, you've got Te-Fiti. You've got the abundance of a tropical island. It's because that's the way the natural system is. And we are that way too. We just have this... It's our thinking mind that's gotten us off track. I'm not discouraging thinking. We really do need to be thinking, but our head and our heart needs to be connected to one another. And when our head and our heart is not connected to one another, then that is the equivalent of being out of alignment, which there's our out of alignment. So we're going to go back to our emotional guidance scale. This is our this is our vibrational indicator as to where we are. Where do we have strong negative momentum? Do we have slight negative momentum? Have we stopped the negative momentum, and have our positive trains left the station? You have a positive point of attraction going for you at all times that is pulling you towards towards and with the evolution of all things. It's like you're going with the wave. You're riding a wave of evolution. You are expanding. Actually, I think we're gonna talk about something that I didn't talk about as much as I probably ought to have. Well, there's never an ought to, right? I could have yesterday. But that's good, because we always want to be finding new territory. We want to be kind of covering the same general ground, but isn't it nice if every day we can find a new way to stumble across how to look at something, so that it shines some light on understanding where we are and where we would actually like to be. Now, your inner being is always looking where you want to be. So it's always helpful when you can find ways to look in the same direction that your inner being is looking. And when you don't and get a hit of negative emotion, it's nice to understand what it is. And the cardinal sin, the one that keeps you from going anywhere, that keeps your trains from pulling out of the station, is you crossing your own energy stream, you plopping down trains in the opposite direction. Because your inner being is always flowing this positive, 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 seeing what is, it knows what is, it knows how the blood is flowing, it knows how the wind is blowing, it knows how the atoms are moving in the field around you. That's what your inner being is keeping track of. And yet, what it's looking at least from your perspective, and your perspective is the only one you have any business minding, so mind your perspective. From your perspective, what your inner being is looking at is what you want. Because every time you wanted it, your inner being, your vibrational inner being, somehow, I don't know how it does it, but somehow it's marking what you loved, what you want, what you prefer. And what you prefer is really obvious stuff. It would be no surprise to anybody. But as you stated this specifically, as you lived your life, it attached to real things in our real world that are even now spinning around on grids of their own, moving around the planet, rendezvousing with different things. Your inner being knows what you want, knows the spirit that you want it in, and knows where all your stuff that's attached to all of that vibration, knows where all of that is too. And that's what it's looking at. It's looking at what you want. It sees everything. and it's looking at what you want. And that's your inner being. It's really you. I think of it as your vibrational cosmic anatomy. It's the aspect of you that it goes from your skin, from your skin on out. That's your inner being. Which is funny because it's like your outer being. Because it's from your skin on out. But that's your inner being. Isn't that funny? There's something very cosmically profound about that. I don't know what it is. But anyway, this right here is telling you your state of emotion is telling you how in alignment or not in alignment with your inner being, your thought, you really are. And so let's go back to some basics. Abraham tells us that the steps of creation run as follows. Steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, life causes you to ask. It just does. It comes at you. You know, you stub your toe. Your heart gets broken. You go broke. Whatever things happen that you don't like, and you want improvement. You don't have enough money. You want more money. People aren't nice to you. You want them to be nicer. You stub your toe. You want to design better shoes. Your hut is made of mud, and you dream of wood floors. You have wood floors, and you dream of tile floors. Which would be better. Your tile floors that you made were kind of toxic to the environment. You don't want that because you like the environment to be alive around you, so you invent something that's better than that, or whatever. You're always better, moving to the better, leaning to the better. You are a preference declaring machine of sorts, and the universe, in a way, is a dream fulfilling machine. But you kind of got to see through the static to really understand how this works. And the more that you focus upon what you want, and the less that you focus upon what you've got that you don't want, the more that your engine is flowing, the more that your being of light is flowing in the direction of what you want, as opposed to being stuck in a place where you're just fussing and fuming about what you don't want and creating more of it in the meantime. As you do that, spiritually, vibrationally, you are creating more of the same. As you stand and fuss about what it is you do not like, whether it's in yourself or in others. And the reason that is so is because your inner being is not looking at that. It's looking at what you want. It's knowing what is. It's knowing that you have value. It's knowing that that asshole neighbor of yours has value too. And that the whole thing is trying to serve you and us, and we are in us. We are inescapably, inseparably in us. And there is no reason to try to force that in any unnatural way. You do not want groupthink and lockstep. That's not the us you want. We already are an us. You just need to know that we are one. You don't have to fight for it politically. We are one. And it would be best if you would, instead of focusing on what we're being, if you would focus on what we are. Isn't that interesting? I just came up with that just this moment. I ran across that thought just as that is, just now. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, back to the emotional guidance system and how it is reflecting back to you the state of the momentum of any negative trains you might have going. Any place where you are crossing your own energy stream, you find yourself in a state of negative emotion. And the reason is because your two spinning discs, your two minds they're out of resonance with one another. Their frequencies are too different now. They might just be a little bit different, with slight negative emotion. The more different the resonant frequency is of the two minds, what they're thinking, the stronger your negative emotion. And interestingly enough, as you start to think any thought, positive or negative, through law of attraction states that that which is like unto itself is drawn. As you start thinking thoughts, the universe starts handing you more. You know, as you sit around and you start thinking, you start talking with people about accidents, you know, and the next thing you know, everybody's got an accident story, and more, and through the afternoon, and that's all. And then Abraham tells us that it takes about 17 seconds for you staying on a thought in any frequency for the law of attraction to hand you another thought on that same frequency. And another 17 seconds, and it happens again, and another 17 seconds, and it happens again. And by the time you hit the 64-second mark, there is quite a large momentum going, and it's much harder to let go of that negative thought now. It's also much harder to let go of that positive thought now if that's what you have done, intentionally gotten a positive momentum going. And the best shot that you have at getting a new positive momentum going is first thing in the morning as you start your day, because as you sleep, the biggest benefit we have of sleep is that it releases the momentums that we have going, and you start your day fresh. You haven't really, now if you think about your very tightly about the shape of your manifested reality as it was yesterday, and as you come up out of sleep you immediately invoke it, and then there you are again, well, then you're in the same day that you were yesterday. And a lot of people do that, and then the next day they pull it forward exactly the same way, and the next day and the next day and the next day. But you could chip away at this, and you could start a new pattern of momentum. Now Abraham suggests, as a matter of fact, her main tool is meditation, the art of stopping the momentum of your chatterbox specific mind long enough for the longer, broader perspective viewpoint, or the impulses of your greater being to have any chance of getting at you. The reason most people are not hearing their inner being is because they are just talking too loud. It's like the cell phones or whatever, walkie-talkies, so you can only hear go in one direction. And if you don't ever shut up, you can't ever hear any impulses coming from your inner being, who is always broadcasting the allness channel to you. Always telling you, always trying to lead your path to your greatest joy and happily ever after, your dreams come true, because we are dreaming this into place. And if you are paying more attention to the dark things in the world and in your life and all the things that you don't like, and staring at them and fussing about them, then you are nightmaring your existence into being, and ours along with it, because we are a collective being. We are one morphogenetic field, and your nightmare starts to bleed into my nightmare, because we're kind of co-dreaming this together. And it's important how you feel about this, because vibration precedes form. And your emotions, your inner being, is in on what's happening, what's coming into being, before you can see it. It can tell by how it feels, and it's trying to guide you into places that feel really good. Because ultimately that's what we all want. We all want a feeling. We may have translated it in this iteration of our life into specific objects. Like we may think a boat is going to give me that feeling of freedom, that feeling of fun, that feeling of joy and happiness, or whatever. But the only reason that we want anything that we think that we want is because we think that through the having of it we will feel better, or that we will feel good. We're aiming for soaring emotions, or we're aiming for relief from our own angst, or whatever the problem is. It's It's a feeling that we're all looking for. And we think that that object that we want will give us that feeling. But ultimately, it's the feeling that we want. So pay attention to how you feel and practice feeling good. Because honestly, if you don't practice feeling good, then even if the condition around you miraculously managed to morph into what it is you think that it needs to be before you can have that feeling, if you aren't good at being happy, even that won't make you happy. You have to practice happy. As a matter of fact, the subject is happy. The subject is happy. But don't you just hate those people who who are just so relentlessly positive? There's actually nothing wrong with your negative emotion, except for the fact that it is not an existential indictment upon the meaning of your existence. I guess that was redundant. Existential and existence are both kind of the same thing, but it's not an indictment on existence itself. Existence is good. It's not an indictment on anyone's value. Everyone is valuable, even if you're angry. As a matter of fact, Abraham points out a very interesting thing. So this scale that you're looking at, it represents the call of source. If you're down in jealousy, you cannot hear the call of hopefulness. You know, you're not anywhere near that frequency. You're deeper into something else. And from there, anger, plain old anger, feels better. From revenge, anger feels better. From depression, actually, anger feels better. Anger at least feels like life. And if you are depressed and you get into a place where you feel angry, people should encourage you through it and on to the next one. You know, work your way up the scale as you believe. You can only believe what you believe. So, what's my point? I had a story I was telling earlier that I realized I did not finish. We were discussing how many Plancks fit into a proton. It's something like this. If you made every one of those Plancks the size of a grain of sand, and of course this is all approximate because not all grains of sand are exactly the same size, but approximately. If you made every Planck the size of a grain of sand, the size of the proton would now be from our sun to Alpha Centauri. That would be the diameter of the proton. Make it a sphere, fill it with sand. A Planck is really small. That is the fine grain of the ether that this universe is made of. That's the all appearance, all manifestation is but this Planck field dancing in different ways. And it's in some ways utterly plastic. It can be anything. But there is a momentum in place. Anyway, excuse me, I'm going to stop and cough. Here's another thing I didn't finish. But I think I've finished it before for our regular viewers, and you may have heard this from other sources anyway. I didn't make this up. Steps of creation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, I ask. My inner being records my asking. And another way of putting that is source answers. Ask and it is given, but it's given vibrationally. It's not given in physical manifestation. It happens vibrationally. And now the evolution of it is in progress. I think this is what Abraham means. It's going. And the only question is, are you going? You know, are you a cooperative component to the evolution in the field? The evolution in the field is happening. The expansion is happening. Some are going with it. Some are resisting it. Some are off in their own dark spaces. But we all have an inner being, and every one of our inner beings is in concert with every one of our inner beings. And there is a win-win in place. Well, it's not in place. It's vibrationally in place that's trying to evolve into physical manifestation. Ask and it is given. It has been given. Our answers have been given, but we've got to get into alignment with those answers. So what are the problems? The problem is, I believe, that we don't understand our negative emotions on the one hand. And the other hand is that we burn fossil fuels for our main source of energy. Those are our two big problems. And I do believe that this understanding will assist at least both of those problems. And so that's why I have my little program. Who am I? Who am I in the field? Who am I in the field? Here's your emotional guidance scale. I have a couple more representations of this. I bought this print, and this one is on my, well, should be on my wall. It's in my closet. I need to frame it. Here's another one, another somebody's representation of how, and this illustrates the momentum of the negative energy. Now the problem is with the negative doesn't just keep getting more and more and more and more and more forever and ever and ever, because there is no source of negative momentum in this universe. All the momentum is positive. The negative stuff is just your own mind's ability to go against your own. Because it has free agency to go anywhere. It can go 360 degrees. It can go into every dark or light corner. It's actually the beauty of it. There's no restriction on the freedom of the thought that we in our explorational meat vehicle minds can take. And that's the beauty of it. So back to the steps of creation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, I ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, it's there. It's there in the field. It's been marked in somewhere in the quantum field. That pattern is now existent. It exists. And somehow we are always expanding. We are moving to the more. It isn't just we're free to, just wander anywhere around this grid in a meaningless way. There is a profound expansion that is happening. There's safety in knowing that, in feeling that there's no regression. We are moving on. The only question is, are we going with it? So we, eternal we, are expanding. The truth of the materiality is expanding. The question is, will humanity join it, or will humanity extinct itself by insisting on continuing to behave in ways that are contrary to this harmonic spirit that is sort of at the base of all organization in the universe? And learning how to get into alignment with it. There is an organization called the HeartMath Institute. I don't know if I've said this in the last few days. The HeartMath Institute, an outfit in Northern California. Not sure exactly. I've known where they are exactly, but you can look them up real easy on the internet. They've been at this for about 25 years, studying basically the link between the heart and the brain, and the importance of the human being needing to get into a state of heart-brain coherence. And that actually kind of equals alignment. And there are quick alignment techniques. Greg Braden has a lovely little one, only takes a couple of minutes. How to connect your heart and your brain together. You focus on the area around your heart. You touch your heart vicinity. That can help your consciousness go that direction. Breathe out of that. a few times, think and feel, and then try to invoke a feeling of gratitude. He goes to gratitude. I know that Abraham kind of has a slight issue with gratitude, in that gratitude contains a little tiny bit of the frequency of the angst that you're so grateful to be away from. That satisfaction is actually better, but I think gratitude perhaps contains a tiny bit of humility too, so maybe it's okay. In any case, gratitude if you need to. Satisfaction is also love, appreciation. Those are really good. Actually, Greg Graydon talks about love and appreciation too. So invoke a feeling of that. You can get it going a couple of minutes, and then ask your heart whatever deep question you had. Should I get on that plane? Or what should I do in this situation? Only you can answer questions like that. But so the HeartMath Institute has been studying that connection between the heart and brain, and they have actually, it's a really cool outfit. Go look that up. heartmathinstitute.org, probably. I'm not sure. Google it. What else do I want to talk about? I have not mentioned this morning, and I actually am a little confused sometimes. My show itself is trying to find who it is. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? My show says. Am I every day, Groundhog Day, starting at the beginning and trying to describe, or am I a day-to-day talk show? I'm a talk show where we generally understand my platform, and then we sort of riff and glide around the edges, nibbling at new places. That would lose new viewers who need to go back to the beginning and listen to, my general gist. Steps of creation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ask and it is given. That's the most important thing to understand. And then all of the things that you have ever declared that you liked, that you loved, that you wanted, that you preferred, all of the things that lit that wick of your heart up, all of those things have been playing together ever since you declared them in a universe that is becoming more, that is connecting in new ways, that is creating things that have never been there before, it's been gestating ever since you first declared all these things as you went along. When you were a kid, when you were a teenager, when you were 20s, 30s, 40s, however old you are, I think of it as like throwing ingredients into this cosmic cake that you're baking that is becoming way more than it ever was when you threw it in there. That preference that was there when you threw it in there has been cooperatively componenting with everything else and everybody else's desires in this same field, percolating. And it is becoming this really cool thing. If we would lean into it, it's the answer to all of our problems. It's the answer to us being able to fix our problems. Our problems being, and I do have to mention this every single day, because although I am not fixated or focused upon our problems, they are there in my peripheral vision. My focus is where we're going, where I want to see us going, is this world where we are not burning fossil fuels and people understand what their own damn emotions are trying to tell them about the true meaning of the shape of the reality around them. That's the world I want to live in. A world that understands that the formula actually for success is win-win. Win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win, not a loser in sight, actually. That's the formula. So here's the litany of woes on planet Earth. I will only say the big ones this time. I kind of devolve into these other more specific ones. Maybe I will. Sixth mass extinction. Growing deserts. Garbage island. hole in the ozone, war, and strife amongst human beings, incessant, eternal strife, along with authoritarian psychosis, and all the way to Holocaust it can get. Our ignorance can take us all the way there. Don't kid yourself about it. However, we aren't focusing that direction. Suffering, yes, as all the suffering that ensues from all of that stuff. And cruelty, and blah, blah, blah. Is there anything else? That kind of covers it. Right here, we might jump to, this might be a good place in the program where we jump to the 5 kleshas, from Buddhist philosophy considered to be the root causes of all suffering. That's why I believe that the things that are playing out right now in our body politic, across the planet, it's a paradigm of scarcity. Even our money, it's a paradigm of scarcity, because where it comes from, a bank invents it, lends it to you, and you have to pay back more than they lent. So already there is less in circulation than is owed. And so it sort of creates this paradigm of scarcity, and everybody feels like there isn't enough to do anything. When actually, we could dream this into being a lot better. Now, one of the reasons that the reality is shaken out that way is because the weight of the currency, the value of these dollars, ultimately are resting on our energy sources. They are petrodollars, you could think of them as. Now, they may not literally be petrodollars, but our currency is largely, it may have once been based on gold, now it's based on energy. Energy is something of real value, and there is a scarcity of it, and the reason that there is because we extract it from fossil fuels, and we don't need to. And as a matter of fact, in this moment in time, our extracting fossil fuel and burning it is as anachronistic as if we were getting our fuel from whale oil now. It's time to stop it. It's time to stop it. It isn't sustainable into the future we're headed for anyway. We are headed for probably 10 billion people, And we could make it work probably with 20 billion people. It doesn't matter how many people there are. If we are living in the win-win paradigm, and it doesn't matter, every single being doesn't have to live forever. You don't even want to. You have to understand that you are we are all a part of this magical one creature, If we would see it more that way, we could live a much more satisfying life. And death is really, there is death, but there isn't really death. It's the forms change. You're going to change form. You've already changed form. From the time that you were born into the physical being that you are now to where you are now, I have changed quite a bit. I was born into this world as a baby. I don't know about you guys. And I'm not a baby anymore. I'm far from it. I'm not even a young woman anymore. And we will never cease becoming. And we will never cease becoming more. And as a field, a morphogenetic field, we will never cease becoming more, because there's a feedback system, a feedback loop of information. The field is growing, it's learning about itself, it's expanding, it's becoming more, it's becoming better, it's finding more and more clever ways to enjoy itself, to understand itself, to play with itself, to care for itself. And the only question is, where are we as human beings, and why do we not fit in so very well? Why is it that human beings have such a rough time? I have a theory about this. I do. I've pieced it together from, information that's pretty open source in the field. And it wasn't actually my idea to look at this, but the person that I got this from doesn't say it as baldly as I'm going to say it. I am not a public figure, and I do not have to watch which way I hold my mouth. I can just say whatever the heck I want to. So this, any of you who are regular listeners will recognize this slide representing the, this is pretty much, think of this whole thing as representing the configuration of your explorational brain. Consists of your lizard brain, your mammalian brain, and then that layer of brain, that layer of mind that kind of makes you uniquely human and allows us to go uniquely in the opposite direction of that which we want, because we can think anything. And it certainly is true that the things that we observe that we do not like, it's true that we are allowed to not like what we don't have to like what we don't like. But understand that there is a broader perspective, a broader viewpoint, a broader understanding of the situation than just, I don't like this. That's probably where your mammalian brain is going to get you. Think about it. When you were a lizard, when you were a reptile, all you had to do was just lay your eggs and go. Your consciousness did not have to be focused on the world in the same way that it has to be when you're a mammal. When you give birth to something that now you have to focus on and care about and protect. Protect from the lizards who are just running around looking for something to eat, you know? So that's where anxiety and fear and jealousy and maternal love, you can see where all that comes from your mammalian brain. And then your neocortex gives you broader perspective, which is sort of... Well, anyway, where did this neocortex come from, you might ask? Why did I bring it up? 76% of your neocortex comes from human chromosome number 2. And human chromosome number 2 is a fused chromosome. It is 2 chromosomes fused together, and these scientists, these genetic scientists, are basically saying that it's 2 ape chromosomes that were fused together, and the result is human chromosome number 2 and the neocortex. I think we were genetically modified, and we would have been genetically modified some 200,000 years ago when Cro-Magnon man appeared on the scene. We don't call it Cro-Magnon man anymore. We call it anatomically modern humans. It's the same thing, and this is the missing link. We're not going to find it in the bones, although it also explains how come we are both alien to this planet and native of this planet, because the building blocks that they likely used, the 2 ape chromosomes that they likely used, were of some naturally evolving ape species on this planet. Ape or hominid, whatever you want to say. You go to a natural history museum, and there certainly are an awful lot of our relatives, a lot of different hominids. They just can't find the one that took us from... Well, this is what I think it is. It also implies extraterrestrials. If you look at the configuration of the tens of thousands, I believe it's that many, I know it's at least thousands, if not tens of thousands, of pyramids, and the location of these structures, and the ancient texts and what they are all saying about the history of this planet, it is way more than our conventional scientists would have you believe. It really is way more. And I don't pretend to know what that more is. I just think we ought to open up our minds a little bit to the possibilities. We are amazing creatures. We are driving amazing machines. The human machine is I don't want to call it the Cadillac, because that's not even all that good. The Lamborghinis of the universe. We are also the playful otters of the universe. what we are capable of doing, the heights that we are able to reach, it is just stunning. You know, watch America's Got Talent, and don't watch it from a mindset of competition or comparison, feeling like, oh, compared to me, that child prodigy is just so great that puts me in a light that mean I'm meaningless. Don't look at it like that. That is crazy. That is the stupidest vantage point to take any view from. The way you should do that is, I need to find a place to just go, we're just going to. Your two minds, your source mind and your conventional mind, they are spinning apertures of perception, of focus, of awareness, of attention. That is actually the true currency of the universe, is attention. It's how come one of the ways that you can has been added to our ability to capitalize is you don't just have to produce a physical object. If you can attract eyes to whatever it is that you're doing, that's worth money, you know, because it is the currency. All you have to do is be a star and attract a million viewers, a million eyes look in your direction, and YouTube will start paying you money. So there's all kinds of ways that people are doing that, and really cute, funny, sweet, beautiful ways. And those are the only ones I focus on. I'm pretty sure, although I don't actually let myself go look, because honestly, you have a momentum mechanism that you're riding, and you don't really want to spend too much time looking at negative stuff, because the next thing you know, boom, that's the way you're going. It's sort of, Esther has her little analogy of Jerry quit pointing off to the side, look at that, while she was driving, because she'd start, she'd drift. Her first immediate reaction would be to start going in the direction. So he started just pointing in things right in front, so that she wouldn't kind of veer off to the side. You are moving in the direction of how you are looking in a very cosmic way, in a cosmic, abstract, fundamental kind of way. The direction that you're looking is the direction that you're going. And so you want to be looking in the direction that your inner being is looking, because that's the way reality is moving. That's the direction of where everything you want is, because that's what your inner being is looking at. Your inner being is looking at what you want. It is seeing everything that is. So and your inner being is so complex and can see so much and understands all the different spinning disks, because it's all spinning out of a single singularity. It knows where and when your stuff is coming around and how you can best rendezvous with it for your happiest life, based on the things that you prefer, your favorite colors, your favorite people, your favorite kinds of experiences, everything. And so I believe that humanity has a duty to itself and to each other to get in touch with your true desires, sort them out from a standpoint of, first of all, care about how you feel. So then when you try out a thought, you can be sensitive to whether that was a thought that starts taking you down a negative hole, or whether it starts, whether that's a negative train or whether it's a positive train. If it's a negative train, then it's pushing against your relentless positive train, remember, but it's keeping you in the station and you aren't going anywhere. That's why your life isn't unfolding towards what you want. That's why it might be mediocre or stagnant or boring or whatever. You're locked in kind of a state of neutral. Actually, this would probably be the better one to show you. A neutral up here in boredom. You don't have much negative, but you have just enough to keep your positive trains from pulling out of the station. Don't cross your own energy stream. Find what you truly want. Find a way to believe it. If you don't believe it, then find a way to shift either your beliefs or your desires. I mean, in a way, the spirit of your desire is never going to change. Your desire is going to be towards love, towards joy, towards connection, towards meaning, towards joyful, co-creative interaction with all of the rest of life and others. It's going to be that direction. That's what we all want. Even if you're a mean old nasty miser, bitter and whatever, it doesn't matter what you're being, who you are. This is what you want. The only reason that you're bitter is because your life has led you to believe that that's not what we've got and it's not possible and we're not going anywhere. That's what has turned you bitter, not because you aren't truly this being that wants love, that knows. Don't get me started. Who am I? Who am I? How does me understanding how these energies work, how does it help me with my life, first of all? And then collectively, how is it going to get us to the big kahuna? The big kahuna, which is off of fossil fuels. That is what is causing us to be so out of accord with the rest of the field around us. And the biggest reason why that is so is because how massively it is illustrating how we do not understand source energy. If we understood source energy, we would not be doing what we're doing. And the only reason we're doing what we're doing is because everybody is so damn intent on focusing upon the reality that we've got. They have forgotten how to dream into place something better. You know, we can't just leave it this way because we're killing the planet. 6th mass extinction, people. That is not nothing. We are killing ourselves. Planeticide. It is nothing less than that. And we should be gardening this planet. We should be blooming the desert. We should be shrinking the deserts and growing life in every available place that we can do so. We have so much of the biodiversity of the planet. We have had the impulse to save. We save it because we want to keep looking at it, because we find that fun. We take our families to the zoos and we look at all the exotic animals and we find that fun. And the people who care for the animals, they find that fulfilling and meaningful. And the result is that we have saved quite a bit of biodiversity, and if we understood how it works, we could encourage much more of it to develop. And the great spirit that underlies us all could still thrive on planet Earth. It really could. And it could through the eyes and hearts and hands of 20 billion people, perhaps, lovingly living on a planet just absolutely chock full of biological abundance, you know? I think that if the answer is just focus on what you want. Focus on what you want. Quit focusing on what you don't like. Because whatever you're focusing on, that's what you're creating more of. And as you focus upon what you want and believe that Source can give it to you, ask and it is given. If you have faith that it is vibrationally existent and all you have to do is go find the cooperative vibration, and Source will start giving you, leading you to the clues to make it manifestly real. Whole different paradigm than this zero-sum, competitive crap that has, yes, it's incremental long-term evolution, but it's not random Darwinian mindless. It's driven by desire. Desire is at the heart of evolution, and that's what steers the evolution into the direction of what fuels everyone's needs within the eco paradigm, right? It's the desire, that wick of the desire at the forefront of the evolution. That's God. That's why it's so important for us to get in touch with our own desires. Believe your desires. Know that they are coming from God. But know that your desires are actually for these elevated feelings, and it's just you that's translated it into, well, I have to have this object. What we all need a big dose of is some safety. Feeling safe in this world would go a long ways, because the biggest pandemic we got going on right now is chronic anxiety. People are anxious because they see our collective ship heading over the abyss. 6 mass extinction, people. It's not nothing. However, it is simply being caused by us not being in alignment with our inner being, not knowing that we actually have a broader perspective that is trying to communicate with us in this way, in this harmonic way, trying to get us into alignment with the win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win flow of this magical universe that we are a part of, that we find ourselves a part of. And we as human beings are so special and so amazing and so capable and so divine and so cool. I just want to tell you that. So let's get into the math real quick. I realize we're well over the 1.5 hour mark, and I will not go over 2 hours. Whatever I do, I never want this to go over 2 hours. I don't want to be a rambling, bambling, whatever. So these are my slides from the, and I still have not spoken to anybody to help me know how to, or if I can embed links to other people's videos without their permission, because I would love to embed a link to the full video of this group, this 37-minute video that fully explains this paper. This paper is what it is. Here it is. I got to start this way, right? The title. This is the paper. Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity. This is the full abstract to that paper. And now these are all slides from that paper. It's actually, I screen captured these slides from a 37-minute, very dense pack. Many more slides than this, as well as verbal descriptions of what these slides are actually saying mathematically in physics talk and mathematics talk. And linking it to historical understandings of these same concepts, and pulling together this understanding of this holistic universe, from the Planck to the universe, these scales and the black hole structure and how it's communicating. Anyway, here's the first one. I captured 13 slides. Here you're going to see them. Gravitational force at the hadronic scale. You can actually probably read the titles. Second screening of the quantum vacuum fluctuations. Hawking radiation of the proton core. You stop at any point and look at these more closely. Black hole proton Hawking evaporation time. Apparently, the length of time that a proton exists is roughly 10 to the 35 billion years. So that's a lot. It's a very stable little black hole we got there. Hawking radiation at the hadronic scale and all the math that goes with it. This will help us understand gravity too. This is the other part of this. First of all, free from fossil fuels. Yay! No longer are we living in a paradigm where every other minute you could tune into, somebody telling you how awful it is and pointing to how we are killing the planet. I hate that. I do not want to be killing Mother Earth. I love Mother Earth. I love her so much. For a while, I had to turn off my love. It was so painful because I couldn't stop looking at what I don't like. But don't look at what you don't like. Look at what you like, but continue to love Mother Earth. We do not want to kill Mother Earth. Let me keep going. I love this picture. This one is showing those pixelations. So imagine that picture on the left is a proton. Imagine it. Actually, it might be a Planck. It might be Plancks within a proton, but it could be Plancks within a proton. Or it could be Plancks in the field. When I said about Plancks being the size of a grain of sand, and then the proton becomes the size of, from the sun to Alpha Centauri, make it a sphere, fill it with sand. That's what it would look like right there. But the whole field is solid packed Plancks. The apparent matter is just where the Plancks have spun into apparent matter. And our consciousness is screening all the rest of it out as irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, but it's sort of like the fish doesn't see the water. That kind of a thing. So let's go to the next one. Quantum structure of space-time. You can see the beginnings of... I usually throw in the words sacred geometry right there because it just seems appropriate. I just liked these pictures. Like I said, there's 37 minutes of pretty dense pack math and physics in this explanation, as it literally describes how matter is coming into being and how gravity is baked into the cake. How black body radiation relates to all of this. And here we go. This is the spin is baked into the cake. This is how the understanding of gravity comes into being. Now, I am just understanding this all from a very layman's point of view, from a very general standpoint. I am not a mathematician and I am not a physicist. But I would invite mathematicians and physicists to go look at this paper, to go look at this YouTube video, actually. And if you're inspired by, if you can understand what they're even trying to say about the nature of our reality, go help them along. They're at isf.org and resonanceScienceFoundation.org. I think that's the two websites. And the paper is, let's see, we can see where it was, Zenodo.org. I didn't look this paper up, so I'm not sure how to look this paper up. I did look this paper up. And this one's really easy to find. Go over to pnas.org. That stands for the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And look at that paper. You can decide for yourself. I mean, if you don't think that we're genetically modified, or if you don't know what to do with that information, that's fair enough. Wherever we got our configuration, we have it. This is how we are designed now, and whether somebody helped us along, I think it helps explain a number of things. One is that we don't seem to fit very well. We act like an invasive species. you know, not like one that incrementally evolved within the ecosystem that it is living in, you know. Now, I suppose there could be other explanations because, well, I don't know. I like this one. I like this explanation. It kind of excites me too. Thrills me a little bit because it's so avant-garde. And I've always kind of liked the edges. I like to be at the cutting edge, the leading edge. If everybody starts liking it or doing it, then I start distrusting it right away. When I was young, I actually didn't like the Beatles in the 1960s. Everybody else liked them way too much, you know? It was like, okay, I'm not going to criticize them. I can see there's some talent there and it's pleasant and okay. But I wasn't Beatle crazy. You know, everybody else was way too Beatle crazy for me to be Beatle crazy. Anyway, what do we have left to discuss? I don't think that we have discussed cymatics today. I do this every day. No, I don't want to say that. You can think I'm full of crap. No, we're not going there. I'm not full of crap. This is very interesting. Cymatics is the study of the relationship between vibration and form. And since we do live in a vibrational universe, and I never did finish steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, life causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers vibrationally. Step 3, you have to get into a state of, you have to tune into the right channel or you can't hear the broadcast. You know? Source is broadcasting to you the answer that you have asked for. But you have to tune into that channel or you can't hear the impulses. Instead, you're taking impulses from some other kind of chaotic disorder. You're out of alignment and you're not taking the impulses and your timing is off. You're rendezvousing with the off. You're rendezvousing with the same ornery characters as opposed to rendezvousing with happiness and order and things working out really well. You get together with the thugs to change the world for the better, and guess what? All you end up doing is knocking down what's there. Surprise, you're the Shiva energy. I don't want to be the Shiva energy in the dysmorphic morphogenetic field. Excuse me. The dysmorphogenetic field. That's what I was trying to say. I don't want to be that. I want to be the cooperative component to all that we desire. All that we desire as humanity on planet Earth. And I'll tell you what we desire. First of all, we do desire peace on earth, goodwill towards men. We love each other. We want to visit each other. We want to taste each other's food, and we want to see how other people live. We want to look at their landscapes, and we want to see what their houses look like, and we want to play in their. The reason I'm saying this, it's not really the reason I'm saying this, but it's foremost in my mind because we're getting ready to do a big bucket list trip. And it's both thrilling and exciting and a little bit daunting too, because we're going to literally the other side of the planet. We're going to Fiji and New Zealand. We're on the other side of the planet. Visiting because we want to go see other people's wildlife. We want to go the wildlife doesn't belong to the people, but they're caretaking it. What are you caretaking? What are your playgrounds like? What are your restaurants like? What are your hotels and your Airbnbs like? What are your systems like? How efficient are you? Actually, I think I'm going to fall in love with New Zealand. The gentle beauty and cooperative componency. There's probably going to be a great spirit of loving cooperation that you can just feel all over the islands. I'm sure that that's going to be like that, and Fiji's going to be like that too. Our problem in our modern world is a spirit problem, but it has to do with us not understanding our configuration, not knowing that we are positive beings, and you cannot escape that positivity. So you can't beat it. So you might as well join it. As long as you do not join your positive self, then you feel crappy. You're feeling negative emotion, but your inner being will never stop being positive. So you might as well go there too. These are cymatic patterns created by some sort of digital machine. I don't know. I don't pretend to know how these are created, but you pipe a vibration into this and it will spit out the form, this pattern that coincides with that frequency. It's very beautiful. These are actually really cool. And every single frequency is going to produce a different pattern. You wouldn't have the same pattern produced by two different frequencies. There might be similarities. There might be, but you're never going to get this. Sort of like snowflakes. Snowflakes are produced on frequencies, and every one of them is very slightly different. You can see a pattern so that you look at it and you go, I know what that is. That's a snowflake. But they're all different. You can see here the cymatic patterns. Upper right, lower left, those are the plates, the black metal plates with some sort of light granular medium on top of it. Pump a vibration through the plate and it produces a different frequency. A different pattern. Change the frequency, the pattern changes. The reason I bring this up, two reasons. Now look at the biological beings. This gives you the ability to imagine, oh wow, we really do live in a vibrational universe. Holy cow. Look at how those patterns, I know how those patterns are created vibrationally. The pattern on that turtle and the other thing that this illustrates, this is the other reason I bring this up, because we exist in a moment in time in our society where we are in deep flux right at the moment. We are changing, we are growing, we are expanding. This is the time of awakening. It really is. It is the time of awakening where humanity is recognizing itself more and more. Generally, more and more people are picking up on it. It hasn't quite hit the reality of all of our systems yet, but it will. And I kind of see the growing storm of chaotic energy as Shiva coming around to bash down some of the things that we've been building that are not sustainable. The institutions that we have built to handle a lot of our great needs they are not sustainable. Our energy systems are not sustainable, and I do not believe that our healthcare systems are sustainable. Although we're trying to work them into a caring and actual logical place, we're far from it. Allopathic medicine contains within it a deep misunderstanding of who we are and what wellness is, and how to work more tightly with the energy fields around us to bring ourselves to better health. The paradigm we have going right now requires all of us to capitalize in a particular way, and when we capitalize in greater ways, we have more power and more access to more of the limited wealth. And so it behooves great parts of us to sell other parts of us things like pharmaceuticals and stuff, and it doesn't even matter whether a lot of them are generally making us less well, because that's good, because then we come back and we get more pharmaceuticals, and the pharmaceutical companies are just getting richer and richer and richer and having larger and larger pieces of the wealth, all of the while that we are getting sicker and sicker, and that's just not sustainable. That's just not sustainable. And all of that is coming from us not understanding who we are too, by the way. By the way, all of our suffering is coming from us not understanding who we are. Who am I? Who am I? I am source energy in a physical body. And I have a source mind that is in touch with all things, that is trying to guide me down this gentle, loving, faithful path. Come this way, come this way, come this way. Step 3, you get into alignment with your inner being and you allow the answers to come to you. Step 4, you get really good at step 3. Step 5, oops, you're back in step 1 again. You're having a negative moment, but you're not mad at yourself for your negative emotion now because you understand what this is. You just hit the rumble strip on the side of the highway. It's just saying, oh, just, nudge back into the road. You're fine, you're fine, you're doing good, you're doing good, you're doing so good. That's all it is. So, anyway, that's my program. I'm coming up on 2 hours, so I think it's time for me to end. Let's see if I can do this really quick. Actually, I can because I can pause. So I'm not going to do this every time, but I'm going to do this today. I'm going to end with this story, and I'm hoping I can get this done in less than 5 minutes. I'm going to read you the Kafka and the Doll story. When he was 40, the renowned Bohemian novelist and short story writer Franz Kafka, 1883 to 1824, who never married and had no children, was strolling through Steglitz Park in Berlin. He chanced upon a young girl crying her eyes out because she had lost her favorite doll. She and Kafka looked for the doll without success. Kafka told her to meet him there the next day, and they would look again. The next day, when they still had not found the doll, Kafka gave the girl a letter written by the doll that said, "Please do not cry. I have gone on a trip to see the world. I am going to write to you about my adventures." Thus began a story that continued to the end of Kafka's life. When they would meet, Kafka read aloud his carefully composed letters of adventures and conversations about the beloved doll, which the girl found enchanting. Finally, Kafka read her a letter of the story that brought the doll back to Berlin, and he then gave her a doll that he had purchased. "This doll does not look at all like my doll," she said. Kafka handed her another letter that explained, "My trips, they have changed me." The girl hugged the new doll and took it home with her. A year later, Kafka died. Many years later, the now grown-up girl found a letter tucked into an unnoticed crevice in the doll. The tiny letter, signed by Kafka, said, "Everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way." And that, I think, is the meaning of all existence. The love is here to stay. The forms, they come and go. And with that, I'm going to leave you until tomorrow. I hope you will join me. I hope you join me today, and I hope you will join me again tomorrow. And with that, I bid you... What did I do yesterday? Did I bid you peace? I bid you peace.